Hey, Heather.
Hi, Greg. Did we have something to do for today? Like, I don't know.
It's a yes, no answer.
Okay. Because I was like, did I miss this completely? Like, that we were supposed to report on things? I don't know. So,
Yeah, it's the life of times in CIC this year. You've been involved everywhere. Wow, boy, look at you go.
well, here's the thing, Greg. I find out that I don't know what's going on unless I'm part of committees. So I really pushed to be part of the curriculum committee. I don't think John wanted me there initially. I mean, he's gone now, Mike's there, that kind of thing. And of course, I've been part of this committee forever. So whenever you want to get rid of me, that's fine. But I like to know what's going on, and otherwise, I have no clue.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Get you. Actually, it's not a bad thing to not know anything.
Yeah, I know. But but then other things pop up, like me bringing up the AI stuff yesterday. I didn't know if that was the place to bring it up, but it's we've got to look at it. We can't just bury our heads in the sand.
Yeah, no, I thought that topic was really good. I didn't I thought the direction of it at the beginning was a little like punitive, if a punitive direction. And then, as I listened more and more, I thought, this is just change. That's all this is. And change has to be embraced. And so if we embrace it, we won't be afraid of it. And if we're not afraid of it, then we'll figure out the best ways and the best approaches to go forward.
And my hope was not to bring it up and go, oh my God, this is terrible, but let's pay attention to this. And maybe I didn't say that right off the bat, right? But we did go down a couple of other rabbit holes as well. But so who's going to pick it up? I don't know, but I don't think it should be me or my team here. I think it's a bigger thing. I think it's City U, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple other things I wanted to talk with you about. It's more or less for ILA type thing.
Okay.
Um, but it's like not an urgent thing, right?
Right.
But yeah, I have a surprise for today.
You what?
I have a surprise in CIC today.
Oh, do you?
Well, because of just the way things are going. We're gonna work. We're gonna work together on those mid-course eval questions. So it'll probably be a short meeting, but it won't. We're not going to be working on APARs.
Well,
I'll explain this to everybody when
okay,
everyone's in.
so that's good because I was so confused. I thought, okay, did I mess something up? But you didn't send anything out saying we weren't meeting, so I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's the way of CIC this year.
Hmm. That's okay. We roll with
We roll with it.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it in the end it all gets there. And I appreciate everybody on this team. So it all works.
Hmm.
So I'll wait for more members and Antonio's in today. Yay. Hi, Antonio.
Hi, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
Allie, hello. Allie, by the way, Monique has added data to all of the APARs in February. So you're ready to rock and roll on all of them. And Esther, that goes for you as well. She finished that up last night.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And we don't have anybody in here for SHSS, I don't think. With y'all know that, well, yeah, Pat, y'all know that Pat has left, right? She mentioned that. So I'll reach out to Anna for SHSS. So I know that Joel is out today. Maybe it's just the six of us. Hopefully there's more. But oh, here's one more. Here's Monique. Okay. So I'll go ahead and just talk about what is up today and why we're not reviewing APARs. The let's see, how do I start? So the schedule, I'll start there. The schedule had the programs for SOEL usually scheduled in February, I think February in previous years. And so they expected it to be in February again this year. Well, that changed because of different other schools who needed to push back their programs because of accreditation requirements. And so I had to move things around. And the BAED and the MIT programs were the ones that were scheduled. And they didn't have time, to be honest. They didn't have time to actually, OIE didn't have time to input data. And then even if they were able to put in data, SOEL would not have been able to have had time to update. And of course, CIC, there would be zero time for us to peer review. So I talked to Vicki about her programs that were scheduled, and she, in that discussion, we decided that they are just going to not be a part of the APAR process for those programs this year. So we're going to start with the February process, which would be STC programs and ALI. And so we're I think at this point forward, we're probably in schedule with the APARs and that kind of thing. So as soon as ALI, and I'll talk with ALI because we're already kind of behind schedule with the February reviews, but I'll talk with ALI offline and we'll get a determined date as to when they'll be done so that I can communicate with all of you to do the peer review, and then we should be on track. Today, what I thought we'd do is talk about the mid-course evaluations. And Tony, I'm really glad you're here today because this is as the university gets deeper in discussions in pockets around the university. I'll say it that way because we're not all together on this. We're not hearing all the voices together. Say it that way. The mid-course evaluation questions need to have, quite honestly, everybody's input. And so that's kind of what we're going to look at today. Now, I know that some of us have reviewed this already. We reviewed it, I think it was in November. Not much has been done since November. But what I want to get to is really drive the questions down to like a group of 5. And that's where I want to get to today. All right. So the faster we get there, the better off we'll be and the more time we'll have in our day. And so there's 8 of us. So I'm going to do this. Okay. I'm going to break us up into teams. There's going to be one team in the main room, and then I'm going to create a breakout room for 4 people in the other room so that we can have 2 sets of ideas on those 5 questions. So each group will come up with the 5 questions that are in the that have already been kind of created, if you will. And if there are any more, then great. Change the wording, add a new question, do whatever it is that you get to the 5 that you want to kind of bring this down to. So I'm going to create a breakout room, and I will just assign. And hang on a second while I do this. And I'm going to put some people in the room. And so I selected 4 people that are going to go into this room. It's going to be called Team B. And what I want you to do is I want you to go into the CIC page in the team section, and you'll see that there's a Team B in there. Go ahead and use that document inside Team B to get to those 5 questions, okay? And y'all, most of you have seen the document itself. So I'm going to open this room, and you should be moving in there. Okay. All right, so I'm going to just put that to the side. Looks like they are all over in that room. And so now what we have in here is we have Megan. Let's see, Megan, Esther, Antonio. Okay, now I'm going to share my screen, right? So that because Antonio, I don't think you know where this location is. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. And we are going to look at this together. I'll probably pop over to the other side occasionally just to see how they're doing or if they're done or whatever. Okay, so what you're looking at are the questions that we have on the list. These questions came from Mary Mara, who, Esther, you may have worked with her on this, I don't know. But these questions came from a number of different courses that people have used. And what a lot of them are duplicates, a lot of them are kind of say the same thing. So what I want to do is I want to be able to work. Interesting. Breakout rooms are kind of cool. They get these little messages that come up. Says I can hold B to broadcast my voice to the breakout room. So that it's kind of like acting like God, you know. Okay, so anyway, these are the questions. So what we're going to do is kind of go through them. I have, you know, if it's helpful, I've gone ahead and built a question set already, but I really do want your opinions on these questions. Let's see.
And Greg, maybe you can remind us in a summary. I know in our discussion with everybody when we last discussed midterm evaluation and these questions, there was a really good discussion around was the usage of the midterm evaluation for instructional purpose, for learning, to give students feedback on their learning, or for students to give feedback on how they're performing, those deliverables for it. Can you remind me? I know it's all in the comments, but maybe a quick recap of that would be helpful.
You bet. Okay, I'm going to put you on hold though for a second because Group B has a problem.
No problem.
And I'm going to go fix their problem and then
Okay.
I'll come back. So I think I have to stop sharing to be able to go into that other room.
And I can share. I have it up here too.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Let's see. Okay.
Hi, Tony. How are you? I haven't seen you in the new year yet. Happy New Year.
Yeah, thanks. I'm doing okay. I think I'm doing better because, the first week back, I was basically sick. And so, yeah.
Yeah, you said it. You said it. We've got one 15-year-old and 12-year-old, and I'm pregnant and expecting, and it has been And we just, we're
There
just
you,
on
there
the
you go.
train.
Yeah, yeah.
They're playing basketball, and I swear they weren't touching the basketball. We would be a little bit better in the house, but luckily grandparents finally came and we were able to get them home safe. But as soon as they left, it was boom with RSV, and we're like,
Yeah.
a lot.
Nah, I hear you. Just, obviously take care of yourselves, Yep.
Well, I'm glad that you're feeling better this week. We've got, oh, hi Presley, how are you?
You're on mute. Hey, Presley,
Yes,
thanks for that message. So you're asking this kind of a similar question to what Esther asked, and that is, what do we do? Okay, here's what we do. What we want to get to is 5 questions from this list. This list, if you'll recall, is a list that Mary Mara presented to this group, and it is a download from many courses that faculty are using already. So you'll see that there's a number of questions that are duplicates or that say the same thing, just using different words. What we want to try to get to is 5 questions that we can start to evaluate between this group, that we can present to Mary Mara in CCI to begin putting into the courses as data, right? That all courses will use. And Esther asked the question, remind us, what is the focus that we're trying to accomplish here? Is it student focused, where, are students delivering, are students getting what they need to get out of the course, or is it more faculty focused? Okay, here's what my understanding of what Scott wants, okay? He would like this to not be long. 5 questions is probably too long. 3 is the minimum. 1 question should tie into the learning outcomes to see how students are either feeling about the outcomes, or are they learning the outcomes, that kind of thing, right? They're tied together with the outcomes of the course. A second question, and this is more of my interpretation, is what can a faculty do to change the course direction that students feel that they're not getting in the class, right? Something like if there's some problem in the course where the faculty has it where the DQs are set to Wednesday and every other course in the program is set to Thursday, make that change. That's an easy change to make, right? Something like that. So it's what can the faculty do to help the students build a better learning environment, if you will. A third question is, what do you like? What do you dislike? Give us some suggestions on that. Those are 3 different questions that might help us at a mid-course point, that could actually help the instructor, help the students learn better, and also to try to tie in the learning outcomes with the end of course evaluation question that also ties in with learning outcomes. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Did
and I wonder if it might be good to have the end of, we do. I know where they are. They're pretty much in my head, but I was going to say have the end of course evaluation questions to make sure that there's some alignment there.
Correct.
My only issue, Greg, is that learning outcomes, like in the EDD, are spread out, and course outcomes are spread out throughout the course. So by mid-course, they may have only covered one of the learning outcomes. So how can we ask them about learning outcomes when they may not have actually covered all the learning outcomes?
So what if there was a learning outcome that was identified? How about it? Yeah, okay. Well, that's a problem. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. All right. I'll go back and instruct the others and we'll come back with what we get.
Yeah. I mean, it's a process. I don't expect a perfect answer.
Okay.
Ah, okay. Hey, Megan, are you there? Are you able to kind of see what
I
we're-
am.
you are?
I am having a lot of laptop issues. So I'm actually on my phone, but I can see.
Gotcha. Okay, very good. Very good.
This is a little awkward today,
Yeah, well, that happens.
but I'm here.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, just a suggestion, maybe from the list, we aim to go one by one, but ultimately like remove the ones we believe would not be applicable.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, kind of narrow that list down maybe.
I think that that's a really great approach. And I'm not Esther's the scroller at this point.
Sorry, my normally calm sleeping puppy just decided to make an exit from my office. Apologies. Okay,
Yeah, I like that as a beginning approach, Antonia.
so we want to edit down a little bit here.
Yeah, we can do a cross through, cross out. If we go bullet by bullet.
And if I remember, I think there was some really good discussion about, yeah, those three areas that you just mentioned. And I think they're up here too. Where I think the headings are here, and I don't think it's about the course, and Presley, I just missed the tail end of what Presley said, but I think this is really about the objectives of the course, right? Our students, do they know the objectives? Are they meeting the objectives? And then the instruction of the course, and then the student engagement of the course.
Yep.
And I think if I remember right, there was a lot of really good discussion about student internal reflection on how they're engaging with the course instead of just focusing on what the instructor could do. So really that ownership, active learning ownership of their learning in the course. So
yeah, and these questions are the questions for the end of course evaluations that are currently being used.
Yeah, so there we go. And then an open-ended question. I'm not sure what that category, if we need to keep it or not, but I get why it's there. So did you want to go through the ones here as well as the ones down here, or do we just want to do section 2?
Section 2.
Got it. So what is working well for you in this course? Describe 1 or 2 things. I don't know if at the top of my head, I don't know if this is reflective in the right kind of level for students to say. I think the open-ended question we like the best for that was down here. What can you do to improve your learning? I would say at this stage in the course. Do you want me to put these in categories? Is that easier?
We could do that as well. Sure. So if you want to create categories below, we can copy and paste into those different categories. Don't put them into the above categories though. Because
right, okay.
those are the end of course evaluation questions that are already being used.
Oh, this is highlighting, sorry. Let's try it here.
So that, in my opinion, the first, what is working well for you in this course drives to, it could be used. The wording may need to change, but I think it could be used.
Yeah, and no, absolutely. So I'm just looking at maybe seeing if we can get these a little bit like what's working well for you, what can you do to improve? These are all kind of student engagement questions, correct?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then I think if we categorize them, then and just I'm not stuck on process here. We can do anything. Then it might be easier to filter them in terms of which question or constructing a question that gets to what kind of a response we need. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Antonio's idea though may help us to kind of reduce the number that we have to go through. Could you scroll up?
I think that categorizing them kind of leads towards what Tony was talking about, because then you can kind of more easily eliminate things that are either repetitive or covering the same concept, or maybe one says it better than something else. We can kind of easily strike off.
Sounds good.
Things,
or we
because
can
it is
do
a really
compound sentence.
big
Get
list.
2 things in one.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay, so let's see. Describe the process you believe, the progress you are making towards the learning goals, and that's really going to be this top category, which is about the course, and I'm going to say about the course objectives. just as a
Okay.
just to organize. Okay. If you could change one thing about your experience in the course thus far, what would it be? Interesting, because this is a dual, to me, student engagement as well as instructor.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you there. It's asking the student to suggest something that can be changed. So yeah, good.
Yeah, so it's almost, I almost feel like it's both there, it's both these places. But let's repeat it there and see what happens. What's working for you in this course? Is that something that we already have? If you could change one thing, no, that's a little different.
Could you scroll the page up a bit? There you go.
Yeah, my mouse is a little jumpy, or I am, don't know which one. Okay. So the progress, that's fine. Let's go here. Let's get these down here. Okay. And we just did this one, so get that one.
That one's very similar.
Okay, I got it now. What is not working for you in this course? Is that helpful? Is that a helpful way to ask that question?
I don't really like the question.
The one below that, what suggestions do you have for improvement is a more positive way of asking a similar question.
Are we okay to do it like this then and put that one? I think that's instructor facilitation, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that could come back with the student reflection, but I think that's really driving towards this level of feedback for instruction. I would love your feedback. Please let me know how you're feeling about the course thus far.
Yeah.
What is working well for you? What might be improved in the second half? Positives, areas for improvement. Do we need all this, or is this something that we already have captured?
It's something we've captured. It's a lot of words for saying what we've already asked.
I think so too. I like the positivity in that statement, but again, it's going to be a bit dry because it's universal. Areas for improvement, I think it's a little vague. I think we've got that. If you could change one thing, what suggestions do you have for improvement? I think is
Agreed.
area of improvement. Best aha moment. That's a does that really inform any changes that need to be made though? Or
No.
is that a good reflection on learning, but is it a good reflection for change, and is that linked to motive? It's good. I mean, it's a really important, it's kind of like what's going well. And
I think the question, because mid-course questions are going to go in probably around week 4, I think aha moments are a little early.
Yeah, and I think that do you want me to leave it in up here, or should we edit that one out just so we're getting to the nitty-gritty here, making it faster?
You could leave it there. It's, it's okay to me, but it'll probably leave eventually.
I was going to say, just delete it.
Yeah. Okay, Tony, I'm on the same. We're trying to be efficient here, and we've had a lot of discussion, so I get it. What's working well for you in the course? What is working well for you in this course? We already have.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. In what ways do you feel you're making progress towards achieving the CityU learning goal and program outcome goals that are connected to this course? So that's really this here, the course objectives, and that's it's a pretty detailed question there, so that's good.
Although we don't need the CityU learning goal part of it.
The program outcome goals that are connected to this course. Okay. If you could change one thing about your experience in the course so far, what would it be?
That's already used above in instructor facilitation and delivery.
What do you like best about the course so far? I'm not sure. Do we need that?
It's similar to what's working well for you.
What do you like least? I think these ones are what's working well and improvement. I think we already have those two. Do folks agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that second bullet I can't see what sections it's in, but the middle bullet, what is working well for you in this course? That's a positive question, but student may want to say what's not working well, and we're not allowing that as part of the question. So
So do you think this is a better way? What do you like least or might change about the course? I've had that on midterm evaluations, and I've appreciated it personally as a student. So I don't think it's that negative.
Yeah, go ahead and put it up in that top section.
It's a little brutal though, so we might not like the wording, but I think the sentiment of getting to I want your feedback is the right kind of mentality. I want your feedback, and I'm asking for it. Maybe not this wording, but I think that it's important. So we can put that here. And again, this probably doesn't get what's working well for you, probably isn't the right wording for that. Oh, whoops. Okay, my teenage boys love when they have a 3-day weekend to take my computer apart and use it for gaming, and then they put it back together terribly. So don't mind my jumpy mouse here. Okay, so where are we? So this might not be the way that we want to ask this question, but I think it's up here to remind us that there are several requests.
Yep.
Iterations of that. So I don't think we need what do you like best about the course so far. Is that correct?
Agreed.
Okay. What might the professor do differently or better to contribute to your learning for the rest of the course?
I like that.
I do too. I think that's correct. Other thoughts you'd like to share? Is that kind of open-ended? Greg's shaking his head.
I wonder if that could be like a fourth question type of thing, right?
So I think they have an open-ended or comments
Sure.
right in the above. I feel like this course is, I don't think that's a question.
Right.
So I'm getting enough guidance from the professor. Is that different from the one we have here? What might the professor do differently to better contribute?
Yeah, I feel like this course is well organized. I can leave.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm getting enough guidance from the professor. That's too singular in direction.
I think that we have what might the professor do differently to better contribute is a better worded question.
Great.
And this is only, as you said, very narrow. The professor provides timeline feedback.
No.
Feedback is major end of course evaluation issue. Okay, rubrics across the board at City U right now from my this is not scientific reporting here, but from the work I've done on end of course evaluation, rubrics are a pain point as well as timely professor feedback, instructor feedback. So we do know that that's a pain point. So I'm not saying we should target it. I'm just giving you guys that as kind of where my thinking is.
Completely agree. But I think our question above, what might the professor do differently, could, if the student thinks of timeline feedback, they could say that.
Or respond during office hours, they could give that kind of feedback, or we could have that as an option. Okay. What did you like about the first half of the course? List up to 3 aspects that you enjoyed or have helped your participation in learning.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's reasonable, and it uses different words that have already been asked. So we can put that in an above section.
I do think it's better than what is working well for you in this course.
Yeah.
I think we could replace this with with the question there. Just simply because I think it actually gets to a specific this half of the course. I think that language is important. What's working well for you is kind of broad, which is not a bad thing, but I'm just thinking that it might be a better replacement for what is working well for you in this course. do you guys think? We just add it here, we can eliminate there later. Again, not sure how much students want to list. So you might not get good feedback just because of what you're what you're asking for. Just we know from how these tend to work. Okay, so okay, yeah. Let me just highlight this. What enhancements or changes would you suggest? List up to 3 aspects that got in the way of our participation in learning, and or I think it's your participation in learning. Share your suggestions on how I could make enhancements or improvements.
Yeah, it's a long question, but
yeah, I think it puts too much into one question. It's asking about changes. It's asking to list what got in the way of participation in learning, and it asks for improvement. So it's a 3-step question, which might be a bit much for a mid-course evaluation. Not that we don't want that feedback, but do we want this to put this under instruction, facilitation and delivery, or do we feel like we have that?
Put it under there just for now. It'll probably go away, but it has a couple of words in there that I think are useful.
Excellent. Okay. All right, I feel this course is well organized. I think we've already got to that. I'm getting enough guidance from the professor. I think we're getting that. The professor provides timely feedback. I think we've already put that in. Does everyone agree those 3 we can summarize? What do you like best about the course this far? We've already done. What do you like least? What might you change? We've already have those. How is the, that's interesting. This is an interesting one. In what way, and in what ways has the professor contributed to your learning? It's an interesting way, I think, of talking about the course objectives. Or is it instruction? It's both. It's a pretty good question, because it's hitting the opportunity to discuss both quality of instruction and engagement as from the instructor, as well as objectives. Maybe I'll is it okay if I put it under here, under both of these, and keep it in mind?
Sure.
What might the professor do differently to contribute to your learning for the rest of the course?
I think we've asked that.
What might the professor do differently to better contribute to your learning for the rest of the course? We have a verbatim that question, so we can probably edit that out. Let's get this mouse to catch up with me. What other thoughts would you like to share? Other thoughts okay, so that's the same question here.
Yep.
What are you enjoying about this course?
Out.
I think we already have that. What enhancements or changes would you recommend for our remaining time in this course?
Yeah, both of those top bullets can leave.
Do you think we already have this? What enhancements?
Yeah, I don't like the question.
Faculty were knowledgeable about literary resources and services and how to access them. Is this more of an end of course question? Because I know this is on the end of course. Yeah. I do like this last one. What additional, not because I added it, okay?
But because you added it.
Not because it was mine. The last 2 that weren't, the font wasn't fixed were my 2 questions. What additional support can the school provide to assist you with your personalized learning? I don't love the wording on it, but the idea was, a chance to ask for students to reflect on what they needed.
That's more of an end of course evaluation question than mid course.
I actually thought this, what can you do to improve your learning, was kind of got there too. But always a chance to ask if they need additional support if they're not getting it. So do we want to delete that, or again, I was joking about my whole personalized feelings about it.
Mm.
I was more thinking that there wasn't an accommodation modification. The special ed teacher in me was wanting to see perhaps something along those lines.
Well, it's not a bad question. I'm
Do you think
struggling.
it's end of course?
I'm struggling with it for the mid-course, but it's a good end of course question.
Yeah. Well, just it's school. It could you could change it, but I think that that's something that we can get in their engagement, right? Okay. So I think, Greg, did we want to just go through each of these categories and see if we can get it into one question? Is that
let's do
what's
that.
next?
Yeah.
Okay, so student engagement. What we want out of here is, let's think about what we want students to take ownership of their learning, right? So we want to see some ownership of learning, active engagement in the learning process. And we want this to be a reflective point for them to be able to say, okay, am I engaging in the course? If I'm not putting the time in, and then I'm pointing to the professor, and because we don't want it to be a blame game on the instructor isn't doing, or the instructor hasn't done.
Agreed.
We do want to point in this midterm reflection where the onus is on the learner as an active learner, I guess is the best way of saying it. So student engagement, I'm just going to put up here for our notes. Active learner. So what kind of gets to that, but also gives important feedback for the instructor to act on?
I like the one about if you could change one thing about your experience in the course, what would it be? Because that gives room for, I need to do more of the reading. And it also leaves room for, the instructor could be better at organizing discussion questions or something like that. That there's.
It's reflective. Yeah, it's reflective. It's also about asking a direct question.
I believe that if we use the word you after the word if, we're making this on the student as to what the student could do, okay? Versus what does the student wish for, you know what I mean? In a global sort of aspect. Instead, it feels more like it's trying to get at the question to the student. What can the student actually do?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that y'all have gotten down to 5 questions.
No, we aren't. We're not. We're past halfway though.
I've posted the questions that we came up with in the chat, so y'all can see kind of where we were going with this.
Okay, that's good.
We tried to make it short, and we wanted basically to capture what's working well for the student, what are they struggling with, and how could they be supported better. We wanted to know, like, how much time are they spending in the course for several reasons. One, so we could put context to their questions or their answers, but 2, also to see, is the course too easy? Is the course too hard? Just kind of get an overall estimation. We also then asked what the school could do to provide assistance. And then Heather brought up the fact that she's interested in something DEI related to be asked. She was talking about our relationships being formed in the course, but we didn't have enough time to workshop this more, so we're not entirely sure where we want to go with this. But that was our idea: is like what is something that we could ask them to check on them from a DEI related standpoint.
So Esther, maybe what you could do is what we could do here is put each of those questions in the categories that we've identified.
Okay, great. So let me just take a peek here. What is working well for you in this course? Describe 2 things. I think we have it here. So I'm just going to edit out these other ones. So we kind of are getting down to, and we were just starting to discuss this. If you could change one thing about your experience in the course thus far, what would it be? What, if anything, are you struggling with in this course, and how can we better support your learning? what, I don't think we have that here, so I'm gonna
That's
add,
not a bad question. I kind of like that one. It's identifying something that the instructor can actually make a change to the course.
yes.
That's more of the middle section.
Is that right here about the instructor and facilitation,
I
correct?
would think so.
Do we want to, and then, I think, is it, okay, what did you first have?
How many hours? I think that's probably more of a student engagement.
I'm just gonna go ahead and delete these ones, Greg, if that's okay. And add how many hours per week to this
Fine.
category. Is that all right? So I think we were looking at this blue one here.
So add that, how many hours per week do you spend working on this course?
All right. Okay, and that's gonna be here. Okay, so that's getting into engagement, right? Active learner. And then what, if anything, are you struggling with? And then what additional supports with your personalized learning? So let's put that. Is that, I'm on the question, what additional supports can the school provide to assist with your personalized learning? Is that facilitation and delivery? Because it seems to me like it's delivery with supports.
Yeah, I would put it.
Or is it course objectives, thinking about if you're not meeting the course objectives, what supports do you need in place to meet those?
What does the team B think about that?
I mean, I don't know if we even need the word personalized, but what additional support can the school provide to assist with your learning? Or what additional supports do you need? And not necessarily put it on the school, but they could say, I need more time. I need more one-on-one with my instructor. I need to, whatever. I don't know if personalized is the key in my mind. We took the question from the bottom of the list. So for me, I'm not sure about personalized. Everyone else can suggest what they think. And I don't know if it's, can the school provide? Because the school's not really providing anything. It's more what can be provided, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and one of the things we wanted to do in Group B was make sure that we weren't making it about the professor, but making it about the student. So instead of saying, what is your professor not doing, or what could your professor do better, we were like, let's put it from the student point of view. So it's less like a, complaining kind of about the professor area, more like a student focused centered area.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point, Presley. We want to inform how to improve the instruction in the delivery. That's, for the student, but it's not a ranting space. Yeah.
Can we remove the word additional? Because we just want to identify what the support is.
I agree.
All right, so that's a good question.
Now, is that closer to course objectives? I guess would be my next question. The only reason I say that is because it is supports, but it's a little bit about, it's a good question because it gets to engagement, because they're reflecting on their own learning, which is active learning. They're informing the instructor of any additional supports that they might need, but also they're aware that without these supports, they might not meet the objectives. So is that delivery? I don't know. I don't know.
I think it goes into student engagement at this point.
So is there a repeat from the second question? What are you struggling with and how can we better support you? Do we need to put this in or do we need to restructure it? So again, it's not support, but something else here in terms of what do you need to do to personalize your learning? I don't know. I just all of a sudden went support through repetition.
So these, I agree with you, Heather. These do, to me, seem rather similar, but putting the Otis in different places. Yeah. So what, if anything, are you struggling within this course? So that would really be support, identifying, right? And how can we support? So we've got support question here. And then what support can be provided to assist you with your learning? They're the same question, just in different words.
I might suggest after, in the second bullet point there, to add in this course. So what support can be provided to assist you with your learning in this course? And then that first bullet point can go away.
So this one would go away because they're repetitive.
Correct.
Also, can we like highlight the questions y'all are thinking are going to stay, and then we could see for sure the ones we've agreed on that should stay and the ones that we are still considering?
Yeah, I'm just gonna put them in blue right now. I don't, is blue okay with everybody?
Yeah, can you also zoom in a little bit?
Sure can, no problem. Okay. So these are the three that we kind of boiled down to for student engagement, not necessarily that this is all drafting, so nothing's set in stone. Instructor facilitation and delivery, kind of input back on to the instructor. We're looking at these two questions right here that the B team came back with. They're similar, so maybe we can think if one needs to stay, or maybe we can still work on these two bullets here. We didn't get through, we got these questions into here, but we haven't eliminated yet. So that's why there's still a lot of questions under this category.
So if we're coming up with 5 questions, sorry, are they not just 5 questions specifically, or do we need to categorize them? Because then there's like 1 in each. I thought we were talking 5 overall.
This is just how we did it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 5 overall. 5 is like would be the max that we would want to ask. 3 is a minimum.
And Heather, we were just thinking based on, I was having Greg remind us of what the objective of the midterm was. Was it, and I know Ali, we had a good discussion about this our previous time we touched on it, is this about the instructor and how the instructor is delivering the course and what feedback that instructor needs in order to change? Or is it about the learner learning in the course and what they might need to do in order to engage or actively meet the course objectives, right? Or is it a combination of both? And so we kept the categories here to try and think about trying to meet both those deliverables, both information to the instructor and active engagement in the course.
Okay, so that's good to know, because what we did was we looked at it the way Presley said, it's very much student-centric. So phrase all the questions in terms of the student, not to negativity against the instructor or the course or anything. Those things would come out of what's working for them, or where they see they want those tweaks made. So
absolutely. So this was just the categories that were up here at the top of that are the main categories that the midterms that are being used at City U, Mary audited, and so that's where these categories came from. They don't have to exist anymore.
these categories are from the EOCEs. They're not from current midterm, right?
These are current EOC questions.
Okay.
And just for a note, if we're considering keeping the first 2 in student engagement, we need to make those blue too.
No, we're not. We're not doing that. What we're trying to accomplish is we're still in the cutting phase.
Yeah.
So, but that's my question. So we're moving down the list, and I thought we all agreed that what's working well for you in this course and how many hours a week do you spend in the course is something we wanted to ask. Did we not agree on that? Did I miss that?
Oh, we just put team A and team B together. These are the student engagement questions that we both teams came up with. Now we just need to come down. I don't know if we need to edit it more or not. Presley, I don't think, as far as I know, as an editor here, I don't know if there's more instruction there.
In instruction, facilitation, and delivery, that first blue bullet point should be removed.
And we'll keep the what support can be provided.
That's correct.
Okay.
And what support can be provided seems like it should be in student engagement.
Okay. So then, do we want to leave that and just quickly look through? Do we want to keep any of these questions here really quickly? If you could change any one thing about your experience, what would it be?
I would remove that at this point.
I would remove all of them in that category because, again, like I said before, or like I said in group B, if this is happening during week 5, the instructor reads the results in week 6. By the time the instructor changes, you're only getting a change for week 7, 8, and 9, basically. It's not really going to have a huge impact. The instructor might be able to help a student who's struggling. So the student engagement part is important, but like, what's your instructor doing, good or bad, I think is going to be answered in the end of course evaluation. And that'll be a place that the students can give you that information. I don't think it's going to help the instructor midway through.
I also think the what support can be provided, it gets to what delivery issues are happening, whether it's a resource, whether it's timely feedback, whether it's day of the week, whether, any of those things, due dates, those general feedback that students tend to give. I think that leaves that open.
Yeah.
Is that fair? What
I would
support?
agree. I'm in agreement with what Presley said. I think in reading those questions, they've been answered.
So I think the instructor facilitation, the instructor will naturally come out of this, what supports can be provided. Okay.
Agreed.
We're getting there, guys. That was a big chunk of deletion. The editor in me loves it. Okay. Of course, so we're thinking about in this outcome from the midterm, we're thinking about, are the students aware of the course objectives and where they are in meeting those objectives? And are they meeting those objectives in their opinion, and or do they need supports? Describe the progress you believe you are making. I think you guys had, let me just make sure I get these questions from the chat really quick. Are relationships being formed? I want to make sure I get that in here.
I don't understand that question, to be honest. Are relationships being formed? Maybe a different wording could be used, but I kind of get the idea of where this is headed.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave it right here because I don't want to forget that it was in the chat, and that's the last one from the B team. So I want to make sure it's in here, the B team. Okay, so really quickly, just thinking about, and I don't know the answer here, I'm just thinking out loud. Do we need a question about progress towards?
I like the first bullet point, to describe the progress. I like that question.
Is that similar to what is working well for you in this course, or are those different?
Well, I want to be sure that we're guiding this a little bit toward learning goals, because I don't think learning goals are something on top of mind for students, but we need to always remind them. And if this, this one needs to be a little bit more directive.
So you think we need more directive language here?
Um,
How many hours per week do you spend working on this course? What is working well for you in this course? And we have something about describing learning goals, objectives.
yeah.
I think it's important. The first two in the student engagement, I think, are important because we need to know what's working well, because that informs us of what we're doing right. Yes. So we know that we may want to repeat that in other courses, et cetera, et cetera. How many hours do you spend working on the course? I mean, that could possibly, I think that's important to know. But that might be able to be answered or talked about in the progress towards the learning goals. Again, I differ with Greg on this. I understand that the provost wants us to know about this, but in the student world, they don't care, and they probably don't have any earthly idea. Like learning goals and learning outcomes are there for us to put structure into a course to make sure that we, as the program directors, are measuring something to show students, what the student's learning. It's really a back-end thing. I don't think it doesn't matter if the students know what those goals are. What matters is, did they learn what they needed to learn in order to write the paper they wrote that satisfies the goal that we had? like for them to know that goal, I don't think it does them any good. I mean, we're basically asking them, what we're basically asking them to do is critique whether the program director created good goals for the class and whether the content is aligned to that goal. And I'm not sure that that's the students' job to do, or if they even have the education to be able to do that. So in my opinion, it's like understanding what the students think about learning objectives is really, I mean, at the end of the course, maybe, but you have to remind them of what the learning objectives were and then say, now tell me if you think you got these. You know, we do that usually in a reflection in week 10. We ask them to reflect on the learning goals and say how you met them, or if you feel like you met them. But in midterm, I just don't see the reason for that.
I
That's
agree with
just
you,
my thought.
Presley. I don't think that they care, or that they would even want to take the time to look back and see what the learning goals really should have been. They're going to answer this quickly. They're going to put in their thoughts in terms of what's in them right now. They're not going to go back and look at learning outcomes, goals, that kind of thing. I agree with you.
But we might be able to, because we know the best learning happens when students know why they're doing it, right? Why do I have to do this research paper? Because I need to meet this outcome in order to be able to do the skill in my profession, right? So that learning process is critical to high level learning. We don't need to say it in technical teacher learning jargon. We could say it, have you met, we could use a student-friendly language like usefulness, right? So are the assignments, I would say assignments and tasks in this course useful or applicable? That's another way of kind of getting towards learning goals without specifically saying learning goals or learning objectives.
That question, Esther, I think we've got in the EOCE portion. So yeah, no, it's a good piece to add, but I think we've already got it in EOC. I don't think it works for mid. And so here's my thought. Okay, so I think if we get to 5 good questions that we all agree with, I do want to have that bullet point as kind of an extra, because when this is sent to Scott, he's going to either say, well, where's the learning goal question?
Yeah.
And I'm going to be able to explain it to him that we didn't think it was there, that we didn't think we needed it, but we added it here just for you, kind of a deal. So I'm good with that. Okay. If I can just keep it at the bottom, and we can continue on with our golden 5, that would be great.
Which one of these do you want to keep, the first bullet point or the second? They're asking basically the same thing.
First bullet point's fine.
You want to keep that one?
As the bottom question.
Delete the bottom one.
Delete the bottom one.
Okay. And then maybe the relationship question doesn't belong under open-ended, but I just put it there. Open-ended comments or that was a category, so we left it. But other thoughts you would like to share, or
could you,
our relationships?
Could Team B, could you talk about that, our relationships being formed in this course? Just to understand what you're trying to get at here.
Let me jump in here and just say that, because it was something that I brought up that I think is really timely and important. And we are all about relationships, and we build relationships different, whether it's a synchronous or an asynchronous environment. So wondering how that's working, because we may get some responses in terms of what's not working. I don't like group projects. I don't like working with certain individuals, like whatever, right? I mean, because people all have that thing, but there's about relationships, and we want the relationship piece to be built, I think, certainly within my program. But even more than that, I was wondering how we could structure questions. So we didn't really work on this at all, how we could structure a question such that the DEIB piece, the equity audit, those things are there. And I share that because I had one entire cohort that was outside of Calgary. They were all teaching on reserve. They weren't all First Nations or Indigenous people, but they were all teaching on reserve. Things are different, that kind of thing. And so they were very, very vocal and happy with how relationships were built and how they were able to share their world too on reserve and that kind of thing. So I guess it just brought to mind that, do we want to ask something like that? To me, it was valuable, but then I see my students all the time. So that was really where I was coming from. Nothing firmed up there in terms of how to ask a question.
All right, so this question that's being asked right now is a yes or no question. So if we were to try to change the question to become more qualitative, relating to relationships, because there are teams, I know in the like the undergrad and the master's programs, teamwork is a big issue. And I'm sure that we'd get a lot of negativity there. So if we were to try to change the question to fit all modalities and all types of courses, in-person, mixed mode, AO, I think it's called, Presley, OAs maybe.
OA, online asynchronized.
And just all of them. So how could we restructure that question?
So Heather, let me just see if I'm hearing you correctly. Let me summarize that. Let me see if I'm getting my head correctly around this. You're saying that it's useful for you as an instructor to get input from your students about the relationships that they're forming and they're engaging with in the course, whether it's positive or negative. That way you can kind of get in there and do something about it if something needs to be done.
Right, and maybe the word relationships doesn't fit here. Maybe it's about inclusion. Are your thoughts, your views, your beliefs, whatever it is, included? Like, is your voice being heard? Maybe, and maybe we don't even have to mention specifics about relationships or about DIB or whatever, but is your voice being listened to, or how is your voice being projected and listened to within the course?
Inclusion, would that be, and again, thinking out loud, are we thinking perhaps a scale here instead of and so students could rate how inclusive they feel their experience, their worldview, their engagement is in the course. Maybe it's a scale, so that way if there's a low rating on the scale, the instructor would know to check in with that student because there's an issue. I don't know.
I don't know. For me, it's not a scale. It's how is this working for them in terms of that piece. I think it's important, but I'm good with whatever the committee chooses and Greg chooses and Scott decides on and all of that kind of thing.
I agree with
I
Heather's
like the idea of inclusion, Heather. I think it's really important, and I think it gets up to this question here: what supports can be provided? But I think actually asking about inclusion in a course would be a really important step to showing and demonstrating value to inclusion. I don't know. That's just me, though.
It's interesting. Antonio, I'd like to hear your point of view on that question.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts are, I think I'm in agreement with Heather. I think this idea of inclusion or DEI related, and I think I think Heather, I think you were hitting on it right on where you're talking about maybe asking students if they believe that they feel they're being included or how their voice is being included. I mean, I think you're on the right track. I think everything you're talking about is on the right track. As you were talking, I was trying to process because I'd love to see how we could word this better. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. I'm not holding on to my wording at any level. This is just me trying to hear you guys and put questions to you. So how inclusive do you find this course? I don't like that, but the idea of asking as a learner, it's different from support. I think it's a different question, personally, because it encompasses voice world perspective, and a lot of other things.
So answer me this. I kind of like the idea, because DEI is such a new nuance for pretty much, it's just kind of a new thing, right? And so how do students answer that question qualitatively today versus how would they answer that question qualitatively in 3, 4, 5 years from now? So maybe what we try to do with this question is create a Likert scale so that we have some kind of a base understanding of some data point. And it makes it easier for students to say where it is that they are on a scale, right? That could be a way to think about this initially. And then if we decide which way we want to go on that, then we can create the question more effectively.
I heard Esther say the same thing about the Likert scale, and for me, it's I don't like Likert scales anyway, because people will go 3, 4, 2. They won't do anything with 1 and 5. As a rule, they're somewhere in the middle. So it doesn't actually give me as an instructor or as a director anything about anything really, unless you're saying, are you being included 1 to 5? That's different than how are you being included? How is your voice being heard by the instructor and the other members of your classroom, of your course, like the cohort or whatever, right? So to me, you get more valuable information when you're asking them how it is, and they could say it's not because I'm, whatever it is, I'm 65 years old and I'm not being listened to by these 30 somethings, right? Like whatever, we would get more information, more data, I think, than we would on a Likert scale.
Okay. So, and is there complete agreement on that side with the group here?
Yeah, I mean, I would be in agreement with what Heather said. How is your voice being included or heard? Yeah, I mean, I like that. I like maybe trying to leave it up to the person to share where they believe they're at or where they believe things are headed. And yeah, I like that.
Okay, so we'll go qual, which is great.
To me, it also adds in the other piece outside of the DEI stuff, but it also is the instructor always lets the, Sarah Jean speak so much in class, whereas some of us are not ever getting the opportunity to speak it, whatever, right? If it's a face-to-face class, it could take all kinds of different twists and turns, but my focus was really about inclusion and voice.
All right, so I really like that question. I think we're going to need to kind of think about the wording on this. So we've done a lot of work today. I don't want to spend all our 2 hours just on this one thing. I think we've done a ton. Is there any? I would like to move on to where we actually adjourn today, because I think we've done a great job, and we can keep these questions here for a next iteration of discussion or how we want to go. And I can also present these to Scott, present these to Mary to get their input as well. And then we can come back to it. You can actually go into this particular page and readjust make any new questions yourself, right? So that may be how I would recommend that we move forward on this. Anybody have any comments related to that? Agreement, disagreement? Let's finish this. Agreed, and let's kind of move on. Whatever.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, well, I think we've done a lot of work here. This is excellent. We've got 4 questions and a potential 5th one that we're trying to work on. And then we have that extra question that I'm kind of putting in there for Scott, if you will. And Esther, thanks for being the scribe and the editor on that. Appreciate that a lot. And And I appreciate your time today, everybody. So have a great rest of your week, and I will keep those questions up there. I'll present them over to Scott and Mary, and then we'll continue on this conversation.
Good conversation, you guys.
Thank you all.
Have a
Thanks
good one,
all.
everyone.
Bye.
Allie, are you staying on to say hi, to talk to Greg? Did I hear that?
I sure am.
Okay, good. Can I just stay on for 2 seconds really quick? Because sorry, our little one had panic attacks yesterday morning, so I was out of the office doing some asthma panic attack work. So I just didn't get a chance yet to pop back an email to you about PDGs. I just went back over the PDG process with Mary to get some better clarifications and some more support and resources that we all need that I was struggling with not having and struggling with having to communicate with program directors without a better process and some clearer resources. So that was my my work behind the scenes. So now I'm going to come back to you and Brian today in an email and kind of lay down, and then I'll meet with each of your folks, or I can meet with you guys all together, and we can just go over what I'm doing just really quickly is I'm rolling out program design guides by phases. So each program director will work with me personally to roll out their PDG over the next year. The goal is to have them finished by your next APAR, but to start them and get phase 1 done here, but during winter term. So over the next 3 terms, everyone in your program administrators will have their program design guide done with program data that's most important and can easily be collected starting in phase 1. So just to give you a little update, I needed some clarification from Mary and Scott to make sure that we could do it that way, because that's the only feasible way. It's not keeping to ask people to do this huge thing. I was getting overwhelmed.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So do you want us to leave the program learning outcome section empty for this APAR and work with you, or would we have data?
Yes, you're going to be attaching our schedule to it for development. That's what this whole APAR is about, is how are you going to be getting your program design guide directly where you need it to be to start really getting that data pulling in. And I think that's where, for the accreditation purposes, we really need to be. We need to be where programs next year are having their data, they're using that data, it's informing instruction.
Okay, got it. Got it.
So that was my in-person email. So you'll see that later this afternoon too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry for the delay.
Oh, no problem. Hope things go well.
Yeah.
So Allie, hang on a second. So I'm going to share the screen just so I can, we can determine that whether or not you're going to be on schedule or not with these dates. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So right now, I just pulled up one of the reports in the entire section. We are sitting at the 18th of January. And, you know, it looks like if you could complete it by the 27th, which is kind of a tall order, seems how you just data, that would be great. Or if you want to give me a date, maybe STC has already talked about a date that you could finish these.
No, I think we'll have them by January 27th.
Wow.
Yeah. I think we will. The undergraduate programs, for the most part, should be good. So I'll be starting to submit those. The only thing is, for the end of course evaluation data, for some of the programs, we had already put in the data. So I didn't update it based on what was provided by Monique and everybody else.
And you wouldn't need to include that for this APAR, because that would have been technically reported after your APAR started.
Okay, great. But other than that, undergraduates were all good. I'll start submitting those, and I'm going to check in with the graduate, but we're good with the dates.
Okay, so keep in mind that in each of the reports, I will indicate if it's a year 1. And you're familiar with what a year 1 is versus what an annual is?
Not really.
Okay, a year one doesn't really have data.
Mm-hmm,
Just really, it focuses on where you're going.
mm-hmm. Got it, got it. And that was, I noticed that the template was different from what we have for the regular templates for the courses.
Yeah, it is different. So
Yeah, yeah.
in a regular one, you're going to have data up at the front. Here, it really just begins with your comments and your direction. What are you going to do in the program?
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good. Excellent. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Yeah, you bet.
But yeah, we're good with the dates. Do you need anything else from my end, or just submit them to the MS Teams and ping you guys?
If you all could work on them in here, well, I'll say it this way. As long, you can do whatever you want with where the documents are, but as long as the documents are put back into here by that date, I'm fine.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll go ahead and start working on that.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Greg. Thanks, Esther.
Yeah, I'll be in touch.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks very
Talk to you
much.
guys later.
Thanks, Sally.
Bye now.